Commander Jinho stood on the bridge of the military cruiser Steel Dawn, watching the final moments of New Geneva Colony play out on the main display. The alien ships hung in space like dark angels of death, their weapons carving precise lines of destruction across the settlement below. Each blast was calculated, measured. The hegemony wasn't trying to destroy the colony quickly. They wanted it to suffer. "Sir, transmission coming in from the surface," Lieutenant Soman called from her station. Her voice shook slightly as she spoke. The screen flickered, showing a dirt-covered face of a young colonist. Behind him, buildings burned, and people ran for shelter. "This is New Geneva calling any human forces. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. They're not targeting our defenses. They're hitting schools, hospitals, homes. They want us to break." The transmission cut to static. Jinho's hands gripped the metal railing in front of him until his knuckles turned white. Around the bridge, his crew worked in tense silence. They had watched this same scene play out 17 times in the past month. 17 human colonies, gone. "Commander, we're receiving broadcasts on all emergency channels," Soman reported. "The hegemony is demanding immediate surrender. All human military forces must stand down. All civilians must report to processing centers for integration into their caste system." The alien voices filled the bridge speakers, cold and mechanical. They spoke in perfect human languages, but their words carried no emotion. To them, humanity was just another species to be conquered and sorted into their rigid social order. Workers, servants, slaves. Jinho had studied the reports from other conquered worlds. The hegemony never simply destroyed their enemies. They broke them first, piece by piece, until entire civilizations begged to be saved. Then they would grant mercy in exchange for complete submission. The main screen changed to show Admiral Taeyong's weathered face. The old man looked tired, older than his 60 years. Dark circles ringed his eyes, and his usually perfect uniform was wrinkled. "Jinho, I need a status report," the Admiral said. "New Geneva is gone, sir. No survivors detected. That makes 17 colonies lost in 32 days. Admiral Taeyong closed his eyes for a moment. "Earth Command has issued new orders. All remaining forces are to fall back to the core worlds. We're establishing a defensive line around Sol System." Jinho felt something cold settle in his stomach. "Sir, with respect, that's exactly what they want us to do." "Explain." Every species the hegemony has conquered followed the same pattern. First, they lose their outer territories. Then they retreat to heavily defended homeworlds. Finally, they get surrounded and crushed by superior numbers. Jinho moved closer to the communication screen. "We've studied their tactics for months. They're predictable because their strategy always works." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "What are you suggesting, Commander?" Jinho turned to look out the bridge viewport at the endless field of stars beyond. Space stretched in all directions, vast and empty. Most species saw it as a barrier to cross between worlds. But what if it could be something else? "We don't retreat to the core worlds, Admiral. We don't give them fixed targets to attack." "Then what do you propose we do?" "We disappear. We take our ships, our people, our knowledge, and we vanish into the spaces between stars, the void regions, the empty sectors, the places their sensors can't reach effectively." Several bridge officers turned to stare at Jinho. Lieutenant Soman looked confused. "Sir, those regions are mostly empty. No resources, no infrastructure, no way to support large populations." "Exactly," Jinho replied. "Which is why they'll never expect us to go there. The hegemony thinks in terms of planets, systems, territory, to control. They can't imagine a civilization that doesn't need worlds to survive." Admiral Taeyong was quiet for several seconds. "You're talking about abandoning everything. Our colonies, our trade routes, our entire way of life." "Our way of life is already gone, Admiral. They've made sure of that. but we still have our ships, our technology, and most importantly, our people. We can adapt. Humans have always been good at adapting. The Admiral looked skeptical. Living in deep space indefinitely. It's never been done before, because no one has ever had to do it before. But we have generation ships, deep space mining equipment, hydroponic systems. We can modify civilian vessels for long-term habitation. Small groups, mobile, hard to track. Jinho's voice grew stronger as he spoke. We become nomads. We live in the darkness between their worlds. And then what? Hide forever. Jinho smiled grimly. We learn, we watch, we strike when they least expect it. Wolves hunting from the shadows. The communication channel was silent except for the hum of ship systems. Finally, Admiral Taeyong spoke. It's insane. Completely. Against all military doctrine. Yes, sir. It might be our only chance. I believe it is, sir. The Admiral nodded slowly. I'll need to convince Earth Command. But if I can, ... How quickly can we begin evacuations to deep space? We can start immediately, sir. Every day we wait, we lose more people. The screen went dark as the Admiral ended the transmission. Jin turned back to his crew, seeing uncertainty and fear in their faces, but also something else. Hope they were about to become something no species in the galaxy had ever been before. Captain, Haijin pressed her palm against the cool metal wall of the bridge as the silent current drifted through the endless black. Outside the viewport, there were no stars close enough to see clearly, just tiny points of light scattered across the darkness like dust. This was the Kepler void, a region of space so empty that most civilizations considered it worthless. Navigation confirms our position, announced First Officer Minsu from his station. We are exactly where we need to be. No stellar bodies within 40 light-years in any direction. Behind them, 17 other ships moved in perfect formation. Cargo haulers, passenger transports, even a few old mining vessels. All of them had been ordinary civilian ships 3 months ago. Now they were home to nearly 8,000 humans, who had chosen exile over slavery. Haijin walked between the bridge stations, checking on her crew. These people had been farmers, teachers, shop owners, just a few months before. Now they operated complex navigation systems and managed life support for thousands of refugees. The change still amazed her. Captain, incoming transmission from the Wandering Star, reported Communications Officer Ji Woo. Captain Namjin says their hydroponic gardens are producing food faster than expected. They want to share surplus vegetables with our convoy. Tell them we accept gratefully, Haijin replied, and remind them about the fuel cells we're sending over tomorrow. This was how humanity survived now. Small fleets of ships helping each other, sharing everything they had. Food, fuel, spare parts, knowledge. The hegemony had scattered them across the galaxy, but instead of breaking apart, the human fleets had learned to work together in ways they never had before. Engineer Dayun climbed up from the lower decks, her work clothes stained with engine coolant and her hair tied back with a piece of wire. She had been a civilian mechanic before the war. Now she was responsible for keeping their modified engines running in conditions no ship had ever been designed for. The void drive modifications are working better than we hoped, Dayun reported, wiping her hands on a dirty cloth. We've increased our jump range by 30%. Maybe more if I can fine-tune the power couplings. How much longer can we stay out here without returning to a space station? Haijin asked. Day-Eun grinned. Indefinitely. As long as we have raw materials to work with, we can maintain everything ourselves. The asteroid mining ships in Sector 7 are sending us all the metals we need. This was the miracle that the hegemony had not expected. Humans had not just learned to survive in deep space, they were thriving. Every challenge forced them to become more creative, more resourceful. Ship engineers were inventing new technologies. Doctors were finding ways to treat injuries with limited supplies. Children were learning mathematics by calculating jump coordinates. "Captain, I'm picking up quantum-encrypted transmissions from the Arcturus pack," announced Lieutenant Youngsu from the sensor station. His voice carried excitement. "They're reporting successful operations against hegemony forces." Haijin moved to stand behind Youngsu's chair. "What kind of operations?" 3 supply convoy raids in the past week. No casualties on our side. They captured food, medical supplies, and intelligence data." Youngsu looked up at her. "Captain, the Arcturus pack is almost 200 light-years from here. That means human fleets are operating across the entire outer rim now." The thought sent a chill down Haijin's spine. When they had first fled into the void, she had wondered if they were just running away to die slowly in the darkness. But this news changed everything. Humanity wasn't hiding. They were spreading. "Any word from other fleets?" she asked. Youngsu checked his instruments. "The Perseus group reports they've found an abandoned mining station in the Vega Void. They're converting it into a mobile repair facility. The Orion pack discovered a way to extract fuel from interstellar dust clouds." He paused, reading more data. "Captain, there are at least 50 human fleets operating in the void regions now. Maybe more." Haijin felt something she had not experienced in months. Hope. The hegemony had wanted to break humanity by destroying their worlds and scattering their people. Instead, they had created something new. A civilization without planets, without fixed territory, without any of the things that made a species easy to conquer. "Send a message to all fleets in communication range," Haijin ordered. "Tell them the silent current convoy is operational and ready to provide support. Include our current supply status and technical capabilities." "Yes, Captain." As Youngsu worked on the transmission, Haijin looked out at the empty space around them. The darkness that was supposed to be their prison had become their strength. Out here, between the stars, humanity was becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. They were nomads of the void, and the void was vast. "Captain," Dayun said quietly, "do you think we'll ever go back? To planets, I mean. To the old way of living?" Haijin considered the question. 3 months ago, she would have said yes without hesitation. Now, watching her people adapt and grow stronger every day, she was not so sure. "Maybe some will," she finally answered. "But I think we've found something out here that we never had before. Freedom." The silent current continued its journey through the darkness, no longer fleeing from their enemies, but moving towards something new. "Commander." Sung-ho floated in the zero-gravity command center of the Shadow's Edge, his eyes fixed on the holographic display that showed enemy ship movements. The stealth frigate had been a civilian research vessel 6 months ago. Now it was a predator, modified with weapons and sensors that could strike from the darkness without warning. "Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, whispered Sergeant Young-ji from the weapons station. Her voice was barely audible, trained by months of hunting in the void. "Single vessel, hegemony escort class. Looks like a supply runner." Sung-ho studied the alien ship through their enhanced sensors. It was alone, following a predictable route between star systems. The hegemony ships always traveled the same paths, like animals following worn trails through a forest. After 6 months of watching, the humans had learned to read their patterns perfectly. "Crew complement?" he asked quietly. "Minimal. Maybe 20 aliens, maximum. But the cargo bay is fully loaded. Could be supplies, could be weapons, could be intelligence data." Around the bridge, 12 other humans worked at their stations with the quiet efficiency of a hunting pack. These had been teachers, mechanics, store clerks before the war. Now they operated military equipment with deadly skill, united by a single purpose. "All ships, prepare for intercept," Sung-ho ordered through the encrypted communication system. "Silent approach. Disable, don't destroy. We need that cargo intact." 3 other modified civilian ships moved through the darkness toward the target: the Quiet Hunter, the Night Whisper, and the Dark Current. Together, they formed Wolf Pack 7, one of dozens of similar groups operating throughout the Outer Rim. The attack came from 4 directions at once. The hegemony vessel never had a chance to call for help. Electromagnetic pulse weapons fried their communication systems first, then disabled their engines. Within minutes, the alien ship was floating dead in space. Boarding party, go. Sung-ho, commanded. Sergeant Yoon-ji, led 6 humans in armored suits across the gap between ships. They had practiced this operation hundreds of times. Cut through the hull, secure the crew, download all computer data, take anything useful. The entire process took exactly 11 minutes. Package secured, Yanji reported, as the boarding team returned. 22 alien crew members, all alive and unharmed. Cargo bay, full of military supplies. And Commander, we hit the jackpot on intelligence. The Shadow's Edge and its packmates vanished back into the darkness before any hegemony reinforcements could arrive. By the time search ships reached the location, they found only an empty, disabled vessel and confused alien crew members who could not explain how humans had appeared from nowhere. Intelligence. Officer Hyan-woo spent 3 hours translating the captured data files. He had been a university language professor before the war, specializing in alien communication systems. Now he was their window into enemy thinking. Commander, this is bigger than we thought, Hyan-woo announced. These cargo manifests show troop movements toward the Centauri sector. They're pulling units from 12 different star systems to reinforce their positions there. Sung-ho moved to look over the intelligence officer's shoulder. Why, Centauri? What's so important there? According to these files, they think that's where our main fleet is hiding. They're concentrating their forces to crush what they believe is our last major stronghold. A grim smile crossed Sung-ho's face. The hegemony still thought like conventional military forces. They believed every enemy had to have a central command, a main base, a heart that could be cut out to kill the entire organism. They could not understand that humanity had become something else entirely. They're spreading themselves thin, he observed. Every ship they move to Centauri is one less ship protecting their supply lines. Exactly. And there are more troop movements planned for next week. Massive convoy operations across 3 sectors. This was the weakness in the hegemony's rigid system. They followed rules, patterns, predictable behaviors. They announced their movements through official channels, filed proper reports, maintained detailed records, all of which made them easy to track for an enemy that had learned to live in the shadows. Seung-ho activated the quantum communication array that connected Wolfpack 7 to dozens of other human fleets scattered across the galaxy. The message was brief but clear. Pattern Delta 7. All packs execute in 72 hours. Across the void, other Wolfpack commanders received the signal. Captain Dongmin of the Vega Pack confirmed receipt. Commander Yujin of the Orion Hunters acknowledged. Captain Hay, one of the Perseus group, sent ready status. One by one, human fleets that had been civilians 6 months ago prepared for coordinated strikes against enemy positions. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. While the hegemony concentrated their forces in the Centauri sector, chasing ghosts, the Wolfpacks would hit their forward bases simultaneously. Fuel depots, communication stations, supply warehouses, all the infrastructure that kept their empire running. How many packs are participating? Asked young G47. Confirmed, Sung-ho replied. Maybe more, by the time we execute. The sergeant whistled softly. 47 simultaneous attacks across multiple star systems. They'll think we have a massive organized fleet. Let them think that. Fear makes enemies make mistakes. Sung-ho looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere in the darkness, hundreds of human ships were preparing to strike. The hegemony had wanted to break humanity by scattering them to the winds. Instead, they had created something far more dangerous than a conventional military force. They had created wolves, Admiral Biora stood before the massive holographic display that filled the center of the Eternal Wanderer's command deck. The generation ship stretched 4 kilometers in all directions, home to nearly 500,000 humans who had made the void their new world. Red lights blinked across the three-dimensional map, each one marking a successful wolfpack attack on hegemony forces. "Ma'am, the latest reports are coming in," announced Colonel Geneseo, moving to stand beside her. The tall officer carried a datapad filled with intelligence updates from across the galaxy. 47 coordinated strikes in the past week. Fuel depots destroyed, communication relays offline, supply convoys captured. Biora nodded, studying the pattern of attacks. Each red marker represented human fleets that had once been ordinary civilians. Now they struck the hegemony's empire like lightning, appearing from nowhere and vanishing back into the darkness. "What about enemy response?" she asked. "That's the interesting part, Admiral. Their coalition is starting to crack. The Praxian forces are demanding answers from the Hegemony Council. They're losing ships and supplies, and they don't understand how humans can be everywhere at once." The Admiral allowed herself a small smile. The alien alliance had been built on the promise of easy victory. When species joined the hegemony, they expected quick conquest, followed by shared resources from defeated enemies. Instead, they were watching their own forces slowly disappear into the void. The Kepler pack reports they've captured another intelligence vessel, Geneseo continued, reading from his datapad. "According to the files they recovered, some hegemony members are questioning whether this war is worth the cost." Before Biora could respond, the main communication screen flickered to life. Captain Wu Jin's weathered face appeared, his expression grim. The veteran officer commanded one of their long-range reconnaissance fleets, operating deep behind enemy lines. "Admiral, we have a problem," Wu Jin said without preamble. "I'm transmitting intercepted hegemony communications now. They're planning something massive." The holographic display changed to show enemy fleet movements. Biora watched as hundreds of alien ships began moving toward a single point in space. Her blood turned to ice as she recognized the destination. "They're mobilizing their entire reserve fleet," Wu Jin explained. "Destination, Sol System. Every available warship is being recalled for what they're calling Operation Final Strike. They're threatening Earth." Bora whispered. Colonel Geneseo moved closer to examine the data. "Admiral, look at the timing. They're announcing this movement on open channels, making sure our intelligence networks will detect it. This feels like ... a trap," Biora finished. "They want to draw our wolf packs into a conventional battle." The Admiral understood the enemy's strategy immediately. The hegemony couldn't fight an enemy they couldn't find. Human fleets appeared from the darkness, struck hard, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. But if the aliens threatened Earth directly, they knew humanity would be forced to respond. "They're trying to make us fight on their terms," she realized. "Large fleets, fixed battle lines, the kind of warfare where superior numbers and firepower win. Exactly what they need to destroy us." Geneseo agreed grimly. Bora walked to the edge of the command deck, looking out through the massive viewport at the stars beyond. For 8 months, humanity had survived by refusing to fight the war there. Enemies expected. They had become something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. Now the hegemony was trying to force them back into the old patterns. "Admiral," Wu Jin's voice called from the communication screen, "we need to make a decision soon. Their fleet will reach Sol System in 6 days." Around the command deck, dozens of officers and crew members waited for her order. These people had trusted her to lead them into the unknown, to find a way for humanity to survive when conventional wisdom said they were doomed. Now she faced the hardest decision of the war. "Send quantum-encrypted transmissions to all Wolfpack commanders," she finally ordered. "Full convergence protocol. Every human fleet, every modified ship, every crew that can fight." Geneseo looked surprised. "Ma'am, are you sure? If we concentrate, Our forces. We lose our greatest advantage. Colonel, they want to hunt wolves, but they've made one critical mistake in their planning. What's that, Admiral? Bjorra turned back to face the holographic display, where red markers showed human fleets scattered across 3 galactic sectors. They think they're facing individual wolf packs. They have no idea what happens when the entire pack hunts together. The orders went out through humanity's hidden communication network. Across the galaxy, Wolfpack commanders received the convergence signal. Ships that had been operating alone for months began changing course, moving toward a single destination. Captain Dongmin, of the Perseus Pack, acknowledged from the Vega Void. Commander Yujin confirmed receipt from the Kepler region. Captain Haywon responded from deep space near the galactic rim. One by one, every human fleet began the journey toward Sol System, but they weren't retreating to defend Earth. They were converging for the hunt's final phase. How many ships will we have? Asked Jun-Scobro. Studied the tactical projections. Over 800 vessels. Modified civilian ships, captured enemy equipment, and a few surprises the hegemony has never seen before, against their entire reserve fleet. Numbers don't matter when you control the darkness between stars, the Admiral replied. They want a conventional battle. We're going to give them something they'll never forget. The Eternal Wanderer began, moving toward humanity's home system. Leading the greatest gathering of human ships in history, Commander Sujin floated in the darkness between Jupiter and Saturn, watching the hegemony fleet through her ship's advanced sensors. The Ghostwalker was invisible against the black of space, its hull coated with materials that absorbed all light and energy. Around her 46 other human ships waited in perfect silence. Enemy formation holding steady, whispered Lieutenant Minho from the sensor station. They're arranged in defensive positions around Earth. Looks like they expect us to charge straight at them. Sujin studied the alien fleet through her tactical display. Nearly 300 warships hung in space, like a metal wall between the human ships and their home world. The hegemony had brought everything they had, confident that superior numbers and firepower would finally crush humanity's resistance. They still don't understand how we fight, she murmured to herself. Captain Duhayan's voice came through the encrypted communication system from his position on the opposite side of the enemy formation. Wolfpack 12 in position. We have clear targeting solutions on their supply vessels. More voices followed. Wolfpack 7 reported ready from above the alien fleet. Wolfpack 23 confirmed position below. All around the hegemony armada, human ships emerged from the quantum shadows, where they had been hiding. The aliens had expected humanity to come charging toward Earth in a desperate rescue mission. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by an enemy that moved through space like smoke, appearing where they were least expected. All packs report ready, Duhayan confirmed. 47 human flotillas in attack position. Total ship count, 812 vessels. Sujin felt a chill of excitement run down her spine. 8 months ago, these had been farmers, teachers, shop owners fleeing their burning worlds. Now they commanded the largest human fleet in history, and every single ship had been forged in the darkness between stars. Execute Pattern Omega, she commanded. The attack began everywhere at once. Human ships struck the hegemony fleet from dozens of directions, targeting communication relays, supply ships, and command vessels with surgical precision. The aliens' carefully planned formation fell apart as their coordination systems failed and confusion spread through their ranks. Admiral Kungmin watched the battle from the bridge of the massive generation ship, Eternal Wanderer, hidden in the shadow of Saturn's rings. The holographic display showed red dots converging on blue ones, like a pack of wolves bringing down a much larger prey. Their defensive formation is collapsing, reported Lieutenant Hayoung from the tactical station. Wolfpacks are reporting minimal casualties. Enemy forces are trying to regroup, but they can't coordinate without their communication ships. The admiral nodded, studying the patterns of the battle. The hegemony had brought overwhelming firepower, but they had arranged their ships to fight a conventional enemy. They could not adapt to an opponent that struck from the darkness, hit their weak points, and vanished before they could respond. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender requests from multiple enemy vessels," Hyung announced with surprise in her voice. "Their command structure is breaking down." Kungmin looked out at the stars, thinking about the journey that had brought them to this moment. "They still don't understand," he said quietly. "They think we're fighting to reclaim our old worlds, to go back to the way things were before." "Sir, we're not trying to rebuild our colonies, Lieutenant. The void is our home now. We're something new, something they've never faced before." The battle lasted 3 hours. When it ended, the hegemony's grand fleet was scattered across the Sol system, their ships, disabled or destroyed. Those aliens who survived sent desperate messages of surrender, begging for mercy from an enemy they finally realized they could not defeat. Commander Jamin of Wolfpack 1 broadcast the final message on all frequencies, his words reaching every human ship in the fleet and carrying across space to the defeated alien forces. "This is Commander Jamin, to all vessels. The hegemony fleet has surrendered. Earth is secure." He paused, looking out at the infinite darkness that surrounded his ship. "But we are not going back. We are the children of the void now, and the void is vast." Across the human fleet, crews faced the same choice. They could return to Earth, rebuild their destroyed colonies, try to resume the planetary life they had known before the war. The homeworld was safe now, protected by their victory. Instead, ship after ship began turning away from the inner system, heading back toward the darkness between stars. They had found something in the void that they had never known on planets. Freedom, unity, the ability to be anything they chose to become. Captain Hyjin stood on the bridge of the silent current, watching Earth grow smaller in her viewport. "Set course for the Kepler void," she ordered. "We have work to do." Engineer Dayun looked up from her station. "What kind of work, Captain?" "The galaxy is full of species that think like the hegemony did. They believe in conquest, in forcing others to submit. Someone needs to watch them, to make sure they never again try to destroy entire civilizations." Around the Sol system, hundreds of human ships made the same choice. They formed into new wolf packs, new fleets, new communities that would live between the stars. They became guardians of the void, protectors of the darkness that had transformed them from refugees into something the universe had never seen before. The wolves of the black spread across the galaxy, carrying with them a simple message: no species would ever again face extinction alone. In the vast emptiness between worlds, humanity watched and waited, ready to emerge from shadow whenever freedom was threatened. The void was their domain now, and they would never give it up.